Hello, my name's Paul Borman. I'm an executive coach to some of the most senior people in the world and a business psychologist. In this online program, I'll share with you some of the common issues that my clients bring to me and the advice that I give them to help overcome these issues. There'll be written exercises to complete, and most importantly, actions to take back in your workplace. Many of the people who come to me for help feel that they don't have the influence they deserve. You may find yourself knowing the answer but can't get people to hear it. Perhaps you've spotted a risk and tried to draw people's attention to it, but have been dismissed as overly negative, and months later have had to resist the temptation to say, "I told you so." Maybe people do listen to you and nod along to your ideas in meetings. They may even sign up to your ideas, but a few weeks later no one's done what was agreed, and so you conclude that you haven't convinced them after all. Or maybe you feel like you're banging your head against a brick wall of people who either don't understand or don't want to understand for their own political reasons. The most galling thing about all these situations is that deep down you know you're right, and that the business would thrive if only people would listen. So common is this feeling in people that once, a long time ago, when I used to run courses on influence, I had a big banner made up, and on that banner it just said, "Being right isn't convincing," because I wanted everyone to remember that message. Now, I wasn't trying to say being wrong is convincing. Clearly, being wrong isn't convincing at all. But in and of itself, being right isn't convincing. You have to do something else other than that. One way of thinking about influence is to consider that there are two main styles of influence, push and pull. So let's talk some more about this idea of push versus pull styles of influence. Picture someone holding up their hands and pushing against you. When I actually do this with people, 90% of the time the natural response is to push back gently. But if I then push harder, nearly always the other person pushes back harder as well. And if we keep going, somebody eventually emerges as a stronger and pushes the other person backwards. To be successful with push requires you to be stronger than the other person, either through logic and more facts, or just more positional or political power. This mirrors the intellectual and scientific debate that we're taught to respect in school and university. So even when you do prove stronger and win the victory, it's often a short-lived victory. You've forced agreement in the room, but you haven't really won the hearts and minds of the people you're talking to. For example, I could use all of my financial and positional power as a father to force my son to tidy his room today. But in reality, it will be messy again tomorrow, as I haven't really altered his attitude to cleanliness. Don't get me wrong, push can work, and when it does, it often works really quickly. But it often fails. And even when it does work, it may not last long. So what's the alternative? Pull. A pull style of influence is a little harder to imagine. But I like to think of it something like a martial art that uses the other person's energy rather than imposing your own. The essence of this style, when it comes to influence, is asking questions. Genuine questions, I mean, not pushes dressed up as pulls, like, "Don't you think it would be a good idea to do this?" But real questions. What are you trying to achieve? Why? What really concerns you about these plans? What would it take for you to feel reassured? How do you feel about it? These type of questions. This pull style allows you to really understand how the other person sees the world, and that in itself can grow your influence with them. So now some reflection. On the worksheet, identify 3 people that you'd like to influence and place them on a push-pull continuum like this. Place their names on the continuum in the places that indicate the style of influence that you normally deploy when dealing with them. Then reflect on whether you could usefully shift. When you next meet them, try shifting your push-pull balance and observe the impact that it has on the interaction. A reminder of the push-pull continuum is given to you in the workbook, as is space for you to look at 3 different relationships and consider how you can adjust your style with each of them.